Blog Talk Radio.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Women of Golf Show. I'm Ted Odorico, and joining me is LPGA professional Cindy Miller, and we are your hosts. We're broadcasting live every Tuesday morning from 9 to 10 a.m. Eastern here on the blogtalkradio.com network, bringing you some of the best golfers, teacher professionals, and entrepreneurs helping to elevate women's golf. We're so glad you decided to join us this morning, so grab your coffee and let's get started. All right, good morning, and thank you, everybody, for joining me this morning here on the Women of Golf Show. Just a quick program note. Despite what the intro said, Cindy will not be joining me this morning. She's got another engagement that she's involved with, so she's not going to be on the show this morning. So I will, as usual, I will be holding down the fort on this morning's show. So I want to thank everybody for joining me though this morning here on the Women of Golf. It's always a pleasure to be here every Tuesday morning. Got a great show for you. Got a guest that was actually just on here a couple of weeks ago, Robynn Ree. She won the CD PHP Open just a few short weeks ago, and she was on to talk about that win. And then she went out and had another great tournament this past weekend at the PHC Classic, and ultimately won that event as well. So this is her second professional win, and I know she's very, very excited about that. We're going to talk to her in just a minute. And then a little bit later on in the show, I'm going to talk about an interesting, comparison, if you will, between golf and life, and whether or not one can help the other. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later on after my interview with Robynn. Again, thank you, everybody, for joining us this Tuesday morning. Just to remind everybody, of course, we're available every Tuesday from 9 to 10 a.m. Eastern here on the blogtalkradio.com network. And at the end of the show, when I play the outro, you'll have some other great ways that you can tune into the show as well. But that's our main link. If you go to blogtalkradio.com /Women of Golf, and we're front and center live every Tuesday from 9 to 10 a.m. Eastern. And for some reason, if you can't join us live, if you go to that link and just scroll down to the page to the on-demand section, all of the previously aired shows, you'll find them there. And also, we want to hear from you as well. So by all means, feel free to reach out to either Cindy or I. My email is ted.golftalklive@gmail.com, and Cindy's is cindy@cindymillergolf.com. So I hope you reach out. We'd love to hear from you, and you're always welcome during the live broadcast on Tuesday to call into the show if you have any comments or questions, or if you want to speak to any of our special guests, you can do so by calling area code 347-945-5855. All right, as I mentioned, I got a great show this morning. I'm going to be joined here in just a second. I'm going to do just a quick intro just to remind everybody a little bit about her, and then we're going to talk to the guest this morning, Robynn Ree. Robynn is 22, a native of Redondo Beach, California. She qualified for the U.S. Women's Open Championship as an amateur back in 2015, and she was an All-Pac-12 first-team member for the University of Southern California as a freshman in 2016. She stepped into the winner's circle, as I mentioned, a few weeks ago for the first time in her professional career by winning the 2019 CDPHP Open on Capitol Hills Golf Course with an overall score of 13 under par. And she's now secured her second Symetra Tour win this past week by firing a bogey-free 6 under par 66 in the final round of the PHC Classic, which claimed a 3-shot victory on the Brown Deer Park Golf Course, and her total overall score was 17 under par. So a very impressive tournament indeed. So let me bring on Robynn, and we'll talk a little bit about this and some other things. Good morning, Robynn, and welcome back to the Women of Golf.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing very well. Congratulations, Robynn, on win number 2.
Thank you.
Let me just say, well, did I not tell you when you were on a few weeks ago, I said that we'd have you back on if you won again, and you went out, and sure enough, you won again a few weeks later, and here you are.
I know, so crazy. I mean, I still can't believe it.
So let me ask you, again, congratulations on the win at the PHC Classic this past weekend, 17 under par, and a final round 66. I mean, that's a very impressive win. Did you know, were you leading through much of the tournament, or did you come from behind? Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, I believe I was leading, I was in second place after the first day, and then after the second day, I had a 4-shot lead going into the last day. So I was leading going into the last day. Yeah. But when I was making the turn, I think my cushion went down from 4 to 1. So it was pretty close. It was pretty close throughout the whole entire day.
That's good though. It's nice to go in. Now, do you prefer to be? I mean, some people, believe it or not, you might find this a surprising question, but are you a player that prefers to be in the lead and then protect that lead, or are you somebody that you don't want to necessarily be in the spotlight and you don't mind coming from behind a little bit to take the lead when it counts most at the end of the tournament? Are you somebody that enjoys the lead, or are you somebody that it doesn't really matter?
I don't think it really matters. I think it's honestly nicer to come back and then win the tournament, because when you're leading, I think you have to protect. You have to protect something that kind of puts you in like an uneasy position. But when you're coming from behind, you don't really have anything to lose. So you can just play golf more freely, and I think that's an advantage.
Yeah, I agree. I think a lot of players, I mean, obviously it's nice. I mean, if you're in a position where you have a really big lead and, your other fellow competitors maybe aren't playing at their best that day, then it's kind of nice, I think, depending on the circumstances.
Yeah.
But I agree. I think sometimes
for sure.
The other thing, too, is when you're in the lead like that, you've got a big target on your back because everybody's hunting for you. They know you're the one that they've got to beat.
Yeah.
So that puts a little undue pressure. And as you said, you go to more, as Cindy always used to talk about, you go into more of a protective mode, if you will, as opposed to just going out there and playing a little bit more relaxed. So, but nonetheless, you got it done, and you got your second win. So let me ask you, and I know I kind of talked a little bit about this when you were on a few weeks ago. Now that you've got your second professional win, the first win, it's great, it's exciting because you can do it, but you're still a little bit unsure just what you're going to be able to do. So now that you've got win number 2, does this add to your confidence, do you think?
Yeah, definitely. We don't have that many tournaments left in the season, and now that I've secured my second win, I think I just have the confidence for the rest of the season, and it's just very it's a lot to take in. When I won the first time, it was like, oh, okay, like I won. It's like taking a little bit to hit, and now, I mean, it's only been 2 weeks since I last won, and I won again.
Right.
And so it's just like, wow, I did it again, and it's.
Right.
I mean, it's so crazy.
Yeah, it's kind of a shock to your system, really, and I don't think for the listeners maybe appreciate this. I'm sure most of them would be jumping up and down with the first win, as I know, you were obviously very excited, and but it was probably more of a relief in a way to say, okay, whew, I finally got that first win. But the second win, you probably enjoyed it more. Would you agree?
Yeah, I would say so. After I won the first time, the second time around, I think I was just more at ease, I would say.
Right.
It's just, I think just the timing is right. I've struggling throughout this whole entire year. Like, even though my results were terrible, I was just struggling mentally and with my game, especially with my putting. And so I just think my game is coming around at the right time for me to finish out strong.
Yeah, and you raise a very interesting point, Robynn, and that is, mentally you weren't in a good place earlier in the season. Things just weren't coming together. Does this sort of help reinforce that, hey, I'm doing the right things? And, again, obviously it adds to your confidence, but more importantly, it lets you know, it gives you a sort of a self-assurance that I'm on the right path.
Yeah, definitely. It's just, golf is, you don't really know where golf or how your golf game is going to be that day or the following day. It's just based on the condition and stuff like that. And so it's just, it just helps when you have something that you can fall back on and the season, it was my ball striking, but there would be times when, you know, my best part of my game would start to kind of falter, and that's just when my brain would go blank and my game would just like, it's just, I don't even know where it would go. And so, you know, just having now that my putting is coming around, my shots are like, I mean, to be honest, this week my shots weren't that great because I wasn't in the best condition. I wasn't able to sleep very well throughout the whole entire week. And so I was actually kind of worried about my ball striking because I was hooking everything, and I don't really hook everything. I don't really hook things unless my wrist is hurting. And so I was actually like worried, and I was talking to my coach about it, and he's just like, you're probably just coming back into your old swing habits. And you know, I just try to work with it, aim more right. But then sometimes that would backfire, and I would hit it straight right. I'm just like, oh my god.
Well, and that's a concern for a player like yourself that plays a lot. You know, you know, especially if you've had an injury in the past, you know, big or small, and you start to see a similar pattern happening. The first thing, obviously, in your case, it ran to your mind, oh, did I do something to tweak my wrist again? So, then you start to compensate in other ways, and as you said, the next thing you know, you're hitting the balls, instead of hooking them now, you're hitting them, you know, to the right. And again, that can really play with your mind a little bit. So that's very good of you to take note of that. But obviously, you didn't let it take root and let it control your round, because you ultimately went on to win. So, and that's something, as you said, you can talk with your coach. So let me ask you something then. With this win, and again, as we've mentioned a couple times now, that this was on the back of another win that you just had a few weeks ago. Were you surprised that you won again so quickly?
Yeah, for sure. You know, honestly, I was just so happy that I was even able to win once, and to think that I would win 2 weeks later, that never would have crossed my mind. Right.
And that's an understandable thing, because again, even though you played well in the first tournament that you won a few weeks ago, you know, you're still kind of absorbing that and still thinking about that a little bit, and then to turn around and do it again in the fashion that you did in the second tournament, you know, again, kind of, it's almost like a bit of a shock to your system, because it's like, wow, I mean, wait a minute, I just won 2 weeks ago, and here I'm winning again. So obviously, that's understandable to be a surprise. So now you've developed a pretty nice cushion in the Volvic standings for your race for the LPGA Tour. Does this give you a little breathing room, do you think, for the rest of the season? Do you feel a little bit better now coming into the end of the season and say, okay, I got 2 wins? Now, it doesn't mean you're out of the woods yet, but you're pretty secure in the top 10, I think. I think you're about, number 4 or 5, somewhere around there?
Yeah, I'm number 5. I'm number 5 right now.
Yeah, so you're right in midway. So does that give you a little bit of a breathing room, do you think, and give you some comfort to know that, okay, I've got a few tournaments left. It doesn't necessarily mean I'm out of the woods, but it just gives me a little bit more assurance that I'm going to be in that position come the end of the season. Does that help you a little bit?
Yeah, of course. You know, before I won, I was just in like the top 15, top 20, and I was just there. And now that I won twice and I'm in the top 10 now, it's just like I can play my game more comfortably, but I can't put my guard down, because I've been told that the standings get switched around towards the last couple tournaments. And, you know, I obviously cannot let that happen.
Right. Right. And you definitely don't want to let your guard down, because it's important that you keep the momentum going in that. And that reminds me, so you're on a roll now, as it were. You've won 2 tournaments in less than a month. What will you do from this point on, if anything different, or in addition to what you're currently doing, to help keep that momentum going?
I don't think I'm going to do anything like drastic. I think I'm just going to try to do what I've been doing as I always have, And, I don't think I really need to change anything except for managing my condition well, because my game really depends on my condition. If I'm not feeling well that day, there's no way my game's going to be good that day either. So I think, I just have to be on top of staying on top of, like, my condition and how I feel, and, just not getting hurt in between my tournaments. That's just super important for me.
Right. Now, you mentioned that you talked to your coach and mentioned about, you were concerned about the risk that maybe there was a problem, creeping in again because of how you played.
Mm-hmm.
What else did you talk? Well, first off, let me ask you, I'm assuming it's a she. Is it a she or a he?
He.
He. Okay.
Yeah.
Was your coach obviously pretty excited with your second win to know that you've, done really well again here just a few short weeks later? And what were some of the things that you talked about as far as, because you mentioned that, your ball striking wasn't the best this past tournament, but you obviously still went on to win. Are there things that you're going to be working on over the next little while before you play again?
Well, so, yeah, he was obviously over the moon about me winning, and it's just so funny because he was like, he called me yesterday and was like, you need to go get that turkey. And I was like, what? What turkey? And I just thought he wanted me to eat some turkey here. But he's like, your third win, you need to go get your third win. I was like, oh, my gosh. I just won yesterday. I haven't even processed that one yet. Yeah, I was telling him that all my shots were going left, and I felt like I was coming over the top. But I have a bad wrist, and my wrist, when it starts hurting, I can't really hold my club face, so I tend to flip my club face at impact. And so,
right.
I was just trying to, I was just telling him that I don't know if it was my wrist because of my wrist that I was hooking it, or like maybe my on the down pass, like maybe my elbow was getting stuck in my backswing. I was just asking him those kinds of stuff, and he was like, just don't think too much about it. Greg Norman always said that on the bad days, like even on on worst days, he always played well. So I was like, okay, well, I'm just gonna have to work with what I have and just hit fairways when I can, and if I can't, then just minimize my damage as much as possible.
Yeah, that's some good advice. You should take note from something that Tiger Woods used to say quite often. When he would win a tournament, and obviously a little bit earlier on in his career, many cases he won by several strokes, and he would often ask about the question, how did you play today? And he said, well, I wasn't playing my A game, but he still blew the field away by 12 shots. So, I think you're going to have to start putting that into your mantra, tournament mantra as well, and just say, I wasn't playing my A game today, but I'm happy with the result. So, you're never going to be 100% every time you go out there on the golf course, and that's something that many of our amateur golfers need to understand as well. Even the best players in the world struggle from time to time, but it's how you handle those struggles, I think that's the most important. Would you agree?
Yeah, for sure. Not everybody who's the world's greatest player is like the best ball striker or the best putter. I just think they're really good at managing their mistakes.
I agree. And now that you've won the second tournament and you've obviously got another nice little check, obviously you've got to put some of that away to save and so forth, but are you going to do anything special to treat yourself for all this hard work that you've been doing this season? You've got 2 wins under your belt now. Are you going to do something special for yourself, or are you going to kind of wait till the end of the season and say, okay, I'll wait and do something then?
No, I can't wait.
So what are you going to do? Tell me what you're going to do.
There's actually been a watch I've been wanting for quite a while now, and I'm going to see if I can talk my dad into letting me get it because it's quite expensive.
Uh-oh.
Yeah,
Well,
but
yeah,
I'm gonna see if I could get it.
that's
when I go
probably a
back
good
to
idea to
home.
get his. Yeah, that's a good idea to get his permission because you don't want to come waltzing in with this very expensive watch on your wrist, and that'll be the first thing your dad will see. He'll say, "Wait a minute, what's that?" And then you'll have
I
to do some
know.
backpedaling, explaining. But
Yeah.
but no, it's important, and you don't want to go crazy and just go on a mega shopping spree or something. But I think it's
Oh
important.
yeah.
You've
No.
worked right. You've worked very hard, not just this season but past seasons as well. You had a great collegiate career, and I think it's important to reward yourself. Responsibly, of course, but reward yourself
Yes.
when you've done a good job. I think it's good for your psyche and it's good to help you along. So I'm glad to hear that
Yeah.
you're going to do
And I
something.
think it
And
also
you've got your,
motivates you too.
well, sure, but you also have to
Yeah.
save some too. So, and I'm sure your dad would say,
Oh yeah,
Robynn, you need to
of
put
course,
some.
yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
you got to
I
plan.
always,
You got to
I
plan
always
for the future.
save my money.
Right. Now, I want to go back to something that's sort of golf related, if you will, and I didn't mention this in the opening notes here when I was reading them out because I'd read it out the last time, but you were actually studying real estate when you were in the University of Southern California, and you're still, going through to in pursuit of your degree. Is that something down the road that you think? I mean, obviously you're pursuing a golf career at this point, but is that something that still that has some passion for you? Are you interested in real estate, and what part do you maybe think you'd like to play down the road?
Yeah, it's just kind of, it's always been in my mind because I only had 1 year left, and unexpectedly I turned pro in the middle of my junior year. And so I finished my junior year while I was pro, and then I took a leave of absence. And I'm just hoping I can get it and finish my degree in the next maybe 2-3 years if I could. I don't want to be 40 when I go back to college with a bunch of 18-year-olds. So
Right.
I'm hoping, I'm hoping that I can finish it sooner rather than later, but if not,
Right.
I don't think real estate requires a degree, and so
Right.
If I can't, and I just the timing is just not right, then I don't really have to go back and get it. I can always just learn with my father. My father's also a real estate developer, and so so I think I can just go learn what I need to become him, I guess, later down on the
Right.
road when I, when golf,
Well,
I put my golf bag in the garage.
right. And, well, hopefully you won't do that for a very, very long time, and I'm referring obviously as a competitor, but obviously you'll be able to play golf in much later in life, which is one of the great things about this particular game, unlike many other sports that are a much more high impact and physically demanding. Not that golf isn't demanding in its own way, but it's not like playing, football or baseball or some of these other sports where, again, there's impact involved or there's a lot of pressure, tennis, that sort of thing. So, you'll always be able to play, but I know what you're saying. You're saying that, you're going to enjoy your competitive career right now and develop that, and then you can sort of fall back onto the real estate side of things a little bit later on in your career. So I think that's a very smart and very wise decision because, as we know with so many other athletes out there in sports, many of them don't necessarily get their degree or have anything else to fall back on. So when their professional careers are over, they're really in a position that, okay, well, what do I do now? So you've kind of got something in the back of your mind that, when you're done some point down the road with golf, you've got something that you enjoy that you can do or maybe even take over from your father at some point later on, correct?
Yes. I think it's so important to have a plan B or some sort of plan to fall back on because, you just never know when you're going to get hurt, even if you don't expect it or when you don't plan, nobody can plan their injuries. I never thought in a million years that I would get my wrist injury when I was 17 and that I would still have it 5 years later. You know, you just never know when your career could all of a sudden come to an end. And I just think it's so important to have something you can fall back on, because, I mean, if you do, like, get an injury early on, you would still be in your, like, mid-20s, like maybe late 20s, and you're still very young. But if you don't have anything to fall back on, you know, it makes you so uneasy. And, you know, it's just not something I want to experience later down in the road.
Right. That I agree with that. That's important. You got to take care of yourself, and you know, you have to enjoy the trip. Now, something I'm going to tell you, and I'm not sure whether your coach or not is tuning in this morning and listening to this, but here's what I want you to do. When you go out and you get your third win, I want you to go to the store and buy a turkey, and I want you to send it to your coach and say, with a note, say, I got my turkey. And he'll get the joke.
Okay. I'll for sure do that.
Just go and get a nice big butterball turkey and send it off to his house or to his place of business and say, Coach, I got my turkey.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
sure.
Robyn, you know, I think that you've got a great career ahead of you, and you've already gotten it off to a great start. I mean, here you are, just 22 years old. You've already got 2 professional wins. You're well on your way back to getting out there and really battling it out, you know, hopefully full-time on the LPGA for next season. And, again, that's going to be, you know, another level up, if you will. And I think you'll do very, very well, because you've got a great attitude, and you've got the right ingredients, I think, to be a top player. So keep the momentum going, keep the confidence going, and just go out there, most importantly, and have fun.
Yeah. Thank you. I really appreciate that.
And when you win, now are you on your way, or are you out at the next? Is there a tournament this week? I wasn't sure. I forgot the schedule.
Yeah, we're in Battle Creek, Michigan, and we drove yesterday.
Okay, so you're ready to go. What tournament is this week? What's the tournament title? Do you remember?
Firekeepers, I believe.
Okay.
I
remember.
Yeah, I think it's Firekeepers.
Okay. Well, good luck this week, and I hope you get win number 3. And if you do, then you're going to be back here next week talking with me again about your third win, and we'll talk a little bit more about the turkey as well. So, Robyn, thank you very much for joining me this morning on the Women of Golf show. I appreciate it. Best of luck. Keep that wrist in good shape, and go out and have fun.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much. Hopefully, I'll talk to you very soon.
You definitely will. I agree. Thank you very much, Robyn. Have a great day and have a fantastic week. All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you. You too. Bye.
All right. That was Robynn Ree, winner of the PHC Classic, and this past week. And as I mentioned just 2 weeks ago, she won the CDP HP Open at the Capitol Hills Golf Course, and she's now in Michigan waiting to play her next tournament here this week, and we'll see what happens. Hopefully she'll get something going and get her third win, or her turkey, as her coach said, and I think that's kind of funny. And we'll see what happens. All right, before we go on to the second portion of the show, and I'm going to talk about, as I mentioned earlier, golf versus life. Can one help the other? I want to play a short promotional clip that we've been playing here over the last little while that Cindy put together. And really, Cindy is obviously, in addition to a great LPGA professional and a Legends Tour player, an LPGA player, she's also very, very strong when it comes to connecting business and golfers together. So here's a short clip. Take a listen, and then we'll continue on with the show.
Everyone knows business deals are made on the golf course. Knowing how to act is just as important as how you hit it. As an LPGA professional and corporate trainer, I offer workshops, seminars, and executive retreats to teach you how to do both. From the back nine to the boardroom, improve your team from the inside out, or Golf 101 for executives might be the perfect fit for your team. Maybe it's time to make some deals on the course. For more information, go to cindymillerinc.com.
All right. That was a great commercial, if you will, that Cindy put together. Go to cindymillerinc.com at the end of the show, and you can reach out to Cindy, and she'd be more than happy to work with you, not only as a teach professional, but also help your business as well, and talk about some of the great ways that golf can benefit your business life by incorporating it into that part of your life as well. And speaking of life, I've often said that golf really mimics life in so many other ways. And I've always been a firm believer ever since, I started playing for many, many years now, that golf can really help your everyday life. And a lot of people might be scratching their head, well, I'm not really sure and I don't understand what you mean. So I want to talk about a few points here this morning on the second half of the show, and sort of draw those comparisons and help you to understand that getting out and playing golf can actually help you in your everyday life, and actually vice versa. Some things that happen, and you'll understand as we progress through the conversation, understand that even in life can translate to some positive things out in the golf course as well. But first off, what I want to do is talk about really some of the things that are unique about golf compared to many other sports. So one of the things with most other sports, and I mentioned a few earlier in my conversation with Robynn, my guest a few moments ago, we've got great sports like football and baseball, and there's soccer and tennis and so many other things. The difference really being with most of their sports that I mentioned is they're more often not team sports. So they're not something that you play yourself. I mean, you can certainly do some things to prepare for that sport on your own, but essentially you're playing as part of a team. So you have other individuals that you're relying on to help pull the weight of the team and momentum, if you will, and it's not just all up to you. So even though you can play a key role in that particular sport and certainly help your team along, it's dependent on everybody's effort. So no one person can go out there and necessarily win for the team. It takes a combined effort. Golf is the opposite. It's an individual sport. Now, obviously, there are some golf events where you might be, for instance, the Ryder Cup or the Solheim Cup for the ladies, where you're playing in kind of a team event, but you're still playing, for the most part, as an individual. So it's an individualized sport. And as a result of that, the only one that can win or lose really is yourself. And you're playing against, obviously, elements that are out there, whether it be wind, rain, or other things that could affect the outcome of the tournament or of the round. And there's really nobody else to rely on other than yourself. The other thing as well, unlike many other sports, most other sports have referees or rules officials that are there to watch to make sure that you're playing by the rules. Now, golf also has rules officials, but you are responsible to adhere to the rules, and you are also responsible that when you, in fact, break or infract against the rules, that you report it and that you're honest. So there's a certain integrity, whereas if you're out in the football field and you incur a penalty, there's a referee there that's going to catch you and throw the flag, as they say, and you're going to see the resulting penalty. In golf, it's a little bit different. I mean, there might be situations where somebody may call you out, which has happened here in recent years, thanks to many of our armchair golf experts who call in when they see somebody doing something on a tournament, and that has certainly become more frequent over the years. But essentially, you are responsible to adhere to the rules, and you're also responsible to be honest and ethical when you're out on the golf course. So there's really no referees per se. Yes, there are rules officials there, but they're more there to guide you in a situation. If you come across something that you're unsure about, you can refer to these individuals. You can call for a rules official and get a ruling on a specific situation. If you're on a cart path or in an area where you're not sure if it's out of bounds or what have you, and you're unclear of what to do next, you can get them for advice, if you will, or not really so much advice, but to clarify rules, if you will, to help you understand a little bit better. So unlike many other sports, that's a primary difference. But also the main difference is the fact that you're playing as an individual. So that's just some of the ways about golf that makes it a little bit unique. And also, most other sports are played in a confined stadium or court. In the case of tennis or basketball or some of the other sports, there's defined parameters. In golf, you're playing 18 holes and you're playing on an open course. Even though you're playing 18 holes, you can pretty much hit the ball anywhere and still not, for the most part, be penalized unless you go out of certain out-of-bounds areas or what have you. So it's a little bit less defined than some of our other sports that we've played. And again, that makes it a little bit unique compared to some of the other sports. The next point I want to talk about here is, are there similarities in playing golf and everyday life? And the answer to that is yes. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the challenges both on and off the golf course, and just to give you an idea or a little bit of a flavor, if you will, about some of the things. Then I'm going to get into a little bit more detail again as we progress. So some of the similarities that you might find in golf, and I'm going to talk about actually, I'm going to do this backwards. I'm going to talk about life. You know, when we have our everyday life, if you will, there's a lot of challenges that we might be faced with. It could be challenges of our job. It could be challenges with our family. There could be environmental challenges, in your community, things like that you may be faced with. And how you handle those dictates really how you're going to navigate through life. If you get easily upset or overwhelmed in certain situations, maybe you've got something going on at work that's important and you're not sure how to handle it. So a lot of times that can create a great deal of anxiety and that sort of thing. So being able to overcome some of these challenges in your everyday life is obviously very important, not only to move forward, but to alleviate some of that stress and anxiety. And I have found over the years, as many others have, that playing golf is a great way to help in your everyday life. And I'm going to give you some examples. We also have challenges on the golf course. You know, it's not just a matter of putting it up on the tee and hitting the ball to the green. There's many challenges and or obstacles along the way. For instance, there are bunkers that are placed in strategically to create a more challenge, if you will, to any particular hole. And each hole presents a different and unique challenge. You might also find some water hazards. It might be a pond or a creek, stream running through the fairway. As I mentioned earlier, there are out-of-bounds areas along some of the holes as well. So these are different challenges and different obstacles, if you will, for lack of better words, that you might be faced with in golf. So one of the unique things about golf and having these challenges, again, unlike many other sports, once you learn how to navigate some of these challenges, you can then translate that knowledge into your everyday life. So let's give an example. So let's say you stepped up on the first tee and the first thing you see is this big old fat bunker out in the middle of the fairway. So you know right away that presents a challenge for most people. For some it may not, depending on your ball striking ability and how far you hit the ball. But let's say it's out there in a position that if you take your driver off the tee and strike it well, you don't have enough distance to carry the bunker, but you certainly might have enough to make the bunker, which is going to present a challenge because you're going to get into a situation where you're going to be in the middle of that bunker and it's going to make it a little bit more difficult second shot. So you have some options. And by taking and observing some of those options gives you an idea to be a little bit more creative and how am I going to handle that? You might want to lay up a little bit and use a club that's going to hit a little bit shorter so that you're just short of the bunker and gives you a better opportunity for your approach shot if you're able to do that, or it sets you up for a more effective third shot. So again, you're going to be faced with different challenges throughout your round of golf. And by learning how to adapt to those challenges is going to give you a better opportunity and a greater chance of success in your round of golf. So these are some things that you can do while playing golf, dealing with some of these challenges. And I'm going to talk a little bit about how you can do that in more detail in just a few moments. The principal question that I asked in the opening section here is, can golf help you or help the other? Can one help the other? So golf versus life. And obviously it can in many ways. And golf can also help you with your mind, body, and spirit. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that as well. So think about it. Let's start with the mind. You know, again, in our everyday life, when whether it be at work or even in our home life, quite often there can be stresses and anxieties that come up through different things that we have to do. So golf can help strengthen the mind. And how it does that is by learning skills out on the golf course and even on the practice tee that can help us overcome some of these challenges. Your mind becomes more fine-tuned and more sharpened, and your preparedness for anything that may come your way becomes a little bit easier. And again, I'll talk about that here in just a moment in another example. The other thing that it does as well, even though it's not as physically demanding in the case of other sports or high impact like football or hockey or some of the other sports, your body does get exercise, particularly when you walk. So if you're in a position and you're playing your local golf course, and obviously if you aren't experiencing physical limitations, I always encourage you to walk as much as possible instead of taking a golf cart. Now, some courses have strict rules. They will not let you walk the course, and that's fine. But you want to make sure whenever possible, even if you don't end up doing it for 18 holes and you want to just go out and play 9 holes sometime with your group and the opportunity presents itself, walk. The exercise is great. You know, you're walking up and down, sometimes some hilly undulations throughout the fairway and even on the green and so forth. And if you're navigating around the golf course with a golf cart all the time, you're not getting the benefits of an opportunity for good exercise. And it's also very relaxing as well for the mind. You know, you're able to get out there. You can kind of enjoy the scenery as you're walking around, smell the flowers, as they say. And it's just a great way to get some exercise. And what most people don't realize, in an average round of golf, on an average length course, you know, when you're walking the 18 holes, it can be anywhere from 8 to as much as 10 miles in some cases, depending on the course and obviously how well of a player you are. Obviously, the better a player, you may not get as much walking in because you're on more of a straight path. But if you're hitting it left and right all the time and in different areas, you might be doing a little bit more walking. But you can get several miles. Sometimes it can be less, sometimes it can be more. So that's a pretty good walk. And if you're playing several times a week, that's getting you a little bit of exercise in there as well. The other thing as well that it benefits, as I mentioned, first it benefits the mind. You can also get physical benefits for your body, but you can also get some your spirit as well. The spirit benefits with a sense of accomplishment, especially after a good round. So if you're out there and you're having fun and you're enjoying yourself with your friends or co-workers, if you're playing with some people from work, or even if you've just met some new people, you've joined another group and you're out there playing, it's good for the spirit. It's good emotionally to be able to go out there. And yes, it can be challenging and sometimes it can be even a little bit frustrating. But if you go out there with a positive attitude, win, lose, or draw, no matter how well or good you play or how badly you play, if you go out there with a positive spirit and just a sense of, you know, I'm going to go out and I'm going to do my very best today, no matter what happens, I'm going to have fun, then your spirit is also going to feel a sense of happiness and uplifting, if you will, and you'll enjoy it. And I think a lot of people, when they're playing golf, focus too much on what they're doing and don't really take time to look around and enjoy the scenery. You know, if you've ever been on a golf course, and especially some of the golf courses that we have here in the United States, there are some truly spectacular views. when you go out in Arizona as an example, you've got some mountains as a backdrop, and you've got some beautiful lakes, and so on and so forth, and some elevation on the tees and greens, so you get some beautiful panoramic views from some of the holes. And, there's just nothing like it. And this is why when I went back to the beginning of the discussion, talked about comparing it, the uniqueness of golf compared to other sports. No other sport offers that. Most other sports are again, played in some sort of a contained environment, whether it be in a stadium or in a court or a enclosed building in a lot of cases. So you don't really get the benefit of some very picturesque views, unlike with golf. And in most cases, many of the golf courses are very well manicured, very well taken care of, and they're just very eye-appealing. And especially in this day and age, with so many great golf course architectures out there that are really taking advantage of the natural scenery and beauty around. So this is also very, very good emotionally and spiritually for you as well, to be able to be in an environment that you're doing something that you're having fun at, you're enjoying, and even though it's challenging, you're getting some great views and some great exposure to some beautiful scenery. And finally, the last point that I want to talk about, and sort of mentioned a little bit ago, and that is the preparation. So preparing for a round of golf or in the boardroom, if you will, there's really no difference. So I'm going to give you an example here, and we're going to talk about this on how you can prepare both on the golf course and in the boardroom. So in golf, you put together a game plan. And an example is how to tackle the course and how to play each hole. When you're on the practice tee, you can practice some of those various scenarios that you might be faced with. So for instance, if you're playing a course that you've played many, many times, maybe it's your home course or it's just a favorite course that's in your community, it's a great way to look at opportunities on how you can put together a game plan for the next time that you go out. So let's say you haven't done that thus far, and you've got a tournament coming up, or you've got a round of golf with your regular foursome this weekend. Take the time to put together a game plan. Even though you say or you think you're familiar with the course, a lot of times we get out there and we don't really think about a strategy, if you will, and you get out there and you just sort of haphazardly start playing, and some point through the round, especially if you're not hitting the ball very well, because you don't have a focal point throughout your round or something to focus on, you start falling into a trap where you start developing problems, and next thing you know, your round just starts to fall apart, and you can't figure out why. And that's because you're not going out there with a sense of purpose. And we've talked about many times on this show and also on the other show that I do Thursday evenings, Golf Talk Live, on our Coach's Corner, about practicing with purpose. So when you go out on the practice tee, visualize, create scenarios on the practice tee that you might be faced with on the golf course. So, for example, you could be on the tee, if you will, or on the practice tee, and you can look out there and you could pick a target. You can say, okay, I'm imagining that I'm on the first tee at my favorite course, and there's maybe some trees on this side, or maybe there's a fairway bunker that runs alongside, or some kind of a hazard that I might be faced with. So now I'm going to put together a strategy. Okay, am I going to be affected? Is my particular ball flight or my normal play going to be affected by any of these challenges or hazards that I may see on the first hole? And if so, then what I want to do is I want to say, okay, if I've got something that's on the left side, I'm going to play a little bit to the right side of the fairway. So I'm going to start to position myself and make a good, solid plan to put me in that position. Conversely, when you are at work and you're in the boardroom, or maybe you're in a sales environment where you have equally you have challenge, you've got a presentation that's coming up, you can do the same thing. You can prepare by getting to know your product or service. The more you understand about the product or service that you have available, the better that you're going to be when speaking with your clients or doing that presentation in front of coworkers. You formulate a strategy that's going to help, again, to impress coworkers or potential clients. So it's very similar to what we do out on the golf course. First off, we identify our product or service, and we get to know about it, much like you would on a golf course. You get to know the golf course. You get to know the lay of the land, if you will. Next, you formulate a strategy. Okay, now that I know the lay of the land out there, how am I going to tackle each hole? So you do the same thing in golf that you would in a boardroom presentation or in a sales presentation. Or even if you're not in sales and you're working in in an environment at work that maybe you and other coworkers are putting together, a project, if you will. There's a start, there's a middle, and there's an end to it. In the starting, obviously what you want to do is you want to get all the information, gather all the information that you're going to need in order to prepare the presentation or to prepare whatever it is that you're doing. In the middle, of course, you've got all this data and all this information that you've got. Now you're going to start to piece it together and get it in its proper order so that it makes sense to somebody else other than you that might be viewing this particular project or presentation. And then finally what you're going to do is you're going to, now that you've got it all prepared, now you're going to execute the game plan, if you will, or the presentation in such a way to present it to others. Well, the same thing happens out on the golf course. We're going to gather the data, if you will, about the golf course. We're going to get all of the information that we can. And if it's a course that you play quite frequently, that should be relatively easy. If it's not, as I've said many times before, one of the things that you can do is you can go online. Most golf courses have their scorecard or hole-by-hole analogy on their website. So you can go to their website, and if it's a course that you're not playing very frequently or maybe you've never played before, you can want to research a little bit. You can get a pretty good diagram of each hole, what it looks like, where the hazards are, and even though you may not have access to the exact yardages, it gives you a general overlay of what the golf course looks like. So now you can start to put together a game plan. And going back to, as I mentioned earlier, out in the practice tee, even though you're not on that course, you can go at your home course or your local driving range, and with that information that you've now gathered, you can start to piece it together. You can say, when I get up to this hole here, these are some of the obstacles and challenges I'm going to be faced with. So this is what I need to do. This is the plan that I need to put forth. And once you've done all that, then when you actually get to the golf course, you can piece all of these things together. Maybe you've jotted down some bullet points, if you will, that'll help you to remember that. You've made yourself a little list, if you will, that you can take with you. So that when you get out on that golf course, you've got something to refer to. So there are many, many similarities to playing and preparing for a round of golf, much like there is in a boardroom or sales presentation or even in a group project that you might be faced with at work. And by combining the two together, it gives you really a sense of being able to prepare yourself and execute a game plan, if you will, in the case of golf, and as I mentioned, as a presentation. What also can happen in life as well, again, when you're faced with different challenges, how you overcome these challenges and handle these challenges are going to make you ultimately a better person. So golf can really help you with that if you really think about it from that standpoint. It's not just about going out and playing around and shooting the lowest score possible. Yes, that's obviously the ultimate goal in a round of golf, but you can take advantage of some of the things that I've just mentioned here this morning and think about it a little bit more. And obviously when you're standing over your ball, you don't want to be thinking about all these things, but as you prepare to go and play that round, you can think about some of these things. And again, you can put them in such a way that when you do get out on the golf course and you're faced with some of the challenges or some of the obstacles that you might be faced with, you're going to be well prepared and you're going to be able to execute them. And even if you don't hit the most perfect shot every single time, you've also understanding what you're faced against, you can overcome some of those challenges in other ways. So even if you hit a bad drive, not to worry. You know how to recover from it. You've practiced it out in the driving range or out in the practice tee, and you know how to recover and regroup, if you will. And by doing that, when you get into real life situations where, again, whether it be work or home or other areas of your life, by practicing and working out in the golf course and using some of those strategies that we've talked about here is going to allow you to be able to use that same analogy in your everyday life. So going back to the original question, golf versus life, can one help the other? Obviously the answer is yes. and they can help each other really in a lot of ways if you put some time and thought and effort into it. And you don't have to be perfect other than the golf course, but if you approach it from the standpoint that I've discussed here this morning, I think you're going to enjoy both your home life and your golf life much more importantly. I want to thank you for taking the time to listen this morning. I hope that this has helped you a little bit. I wanted to give you just a sort of glimpse into the comparison between golf and life. Obviously, there's much more that can be discussed, but obviously we have limited time here. So I hope this gives you a general idea and some things to think about, because I think that, again, if you put things in perspective in any part of your life, golf or otherwise, I think it makes you better prepared and enjoy life, to its fullest. So I want to thank again my very special guest this morning, Robynn Ree, winner of the PHC Classic this past week, and I look forward to hosting next week's guest here from the Symetra Tour, and of course Cindy will be back next week. And I want to thank you for joining me. Don't forget to, for those of you that maybe missed part of the show or want to catch up on some of the other shows, if you go to blogtalkradio.com/Women of Golf and scroll down to the on-demand section, you can not only catch today's show in its entirety, but you can also listen to previously aired shows in case you missed any. So on behalf of Cindy Miller, who's not here today but will be next week, and I'm Ted Odorico, and we are the hosts here of the Women of Golf show. I want to thank you very much for joining me this morning here on the Women of Golf. I'll see you next week. God bless everybody. Thanks for listening this morning to the Women of Golf show. Tune in live each week by visiting blogtalkradio.com/Women of Golf or on any of these social media platforms: iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, CastBox, TalkStream Live, and of course Spotify. If you can't join us live, check out our on-demand section for previously aired broadcasts. To get updates for future shows and upcoming guests, you can follow us on Facebook at Women of Golf. You can also follow me on Twitter at TedandBuckCEO and Cindy at Cindy Miller Golf. Please remember to join us next week on the Women of Golf show. See you next time. This has been a production of the iGolf Sports Network.